Hey, fellow patriots, I'm Bree.
And I'm Blaze. Some call me Pa. It has been said that we have 4 boxes to keep ourselves free. These are the soapbox, the ballot box, the jury box, and the ammo box.
And we are the 4th box. We are here to arm you with enough information, resources, and skills to take back your freedom, increase your self-sufficiency, and inspire you to join in the fight against tyranny.
Thomas Jefferson said, "Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty." Thank you for joining us and for joining in this fight.
Welcome back to the 4th box. Welcome back to the 4th box, ladies and gentlemen. We are once again joined by another guest who we will bring in momentarily. But before we do that, Pops, I will have you get us started.
Perfect. Welcome back, friends from around the country, fellow listeners, and all who have joined us in the past. We are certainly happy to come to you again tonight from our virtual Buckman Tavern, tucked safely away here in the snowy Appalachian Mountains, I might add, where we are getting snow tonight. I expect you might be up in the New England area a little later on tonight, Bree.
It looks that way.
Yeah, but we did have a little dusting on the ground, and it is the week that we remember veterans. So my toast tonight goes out to all veterans, and a veteran is someone who has served in the military and is often described as having written a blank check payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including his or her life. At the Veterans Club, they went on to say further, we depart from Title 38 of the Code of Federal Regulations to define a veteran as anyone who took the oath of enlistment and went through basic training, i.e. what we call boot camp. To join military is to be transformed. It means entering a distinct and separate subculture with its own language, ethics, traditions, and rules of behavior. These leave a lasting impact. And that piece was written by Todd DiPastino. I also wanted to call to mind, I don't know if you had the chance to see a veteran from Great Britain who was being interviewed on Good Morning Britain. And I think much to the surprise of many people, he stated that looking at what has happened to his country today, with overwhelming amounts of surveillance, out of control immigration affecting neighborhoods all through their land, as well as here, that the sacrifice was not worth it. I think that really gives pause to all of us here in this country, too, as you think about the World War II vets, especially Bree, and your grandpa being one of them, very distinguished veteran involved in the invasion of Sicily and North Africa and other campaigns. I wonder what those folks think today when they look around at what has happened here in our country. So my toast and my glass is being raised tonight to all those who have ever wore the uniform. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, hear.
So my quote then tonight, and then we'll bring our guest in, very much looking forward to that. The quote is, resistance to tyranny becomes the Christian and social duty of each individual. Continue steadfast and with a proper sense of your dependence on God, nobly defend those rights which heaven gave, and no man ought to take from us. And that come from John Hancock, very famous signer of the Declaration of Independence. So with that, I hope that leads us into a great discussion tonight. And Bree, let's bring in our guest and see where it goes.
Yeah, perfect. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. Thank you for the great toast this evening, thinking of veterans this week and always. And thank you for the quote, which I think is relevant always, but hopefully will tie into our conversation a bit. So with that, I'd like to welcome Rex Bundy to the 4th Box podcast. We are super excited to talk a little bit about the spiritual awakening that's going on in this country, as well as the spiritual battle that we all find ourselves in, even if we're not able to quite see that yet. So welcome to the Fourth Box, Rex.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to add something to that toast. I felt really sad to hear that British soldier felt that he sacrificed for nothing. I'm really happy to see in this country Pete Hegseth and the changes that he's making to the military, turning it away from political and social nonsense and focusing on what it should be. My war was the Vietnam War. That is still to this day controversial. That particular skirmish, police action.
Mm-hmm.
The service that those people put in, even if I'm not saying though, even if that war was corrupt, even if it was wrong spirited, it is the soldier's duty to serve the country, not the perfect country, because there's no such thing. So you serve your country and you take pride in having done that. And if the country is off kilter, that's what your vote is for. Exercise your vote, but don't become discouraged that what the sacrifices that you made to the country were in vain. They were not.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, I think that was perfectly said. And I think so important when we think about Veterans Day this week, because I'm sure many of the people that you were there with, and when we think about more recent wars too, I know the pullout of Afghanistan was really tremendously hard on a lot of people. And there's so many situations like that where I do feel that maybe people who were in are sort of lost now. And I completely agree with you. There are things that maybe from a social standpoint are a little less than savory, but it certainly doesn't discredit what people have sacrificed to be there.
Yeah.
When I said that the Vietnam War was my war, I didn't mean to imply that I actually went in country. I served, but I never went in country.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, thank you for your service nonetheless.
Absolutely. We do thank you for your service. It's great to have you come aboard. The only point that I would like to add to the discussion, as long as we're talking about Veterans Day and the sacrifices that so many people made, since World War II, we have been involved in conflicts all around the world. And I completely agree with you, Rex, that once you're in uniform, you do what you're instructed to do. And you may be able to take an action politically by casting your vote and speaking out otherwise when you're backing out of uniform. But when you're in uniform, we were all ordered to do things that maybe we didn't agree with, but that's what you ended up doing. My point is, and we're very constitutionally based, and we're not going to expect to spend a lot of time on this tonight, but since World War II, we've been engaged in conflicts all around the world that never really passed the constitutional requirements, such as a declaration of war by Congress. So for that reason, I expect every person that ever took the oath, which we all did, has a right to speak loud and long about the illegal wars, which were participated in by this country without the required congressional constitutional action being taken place and a declaration of war coming out of Congress.
Yeah, and it brings to mind. I've heard a lot of people who have denigrated. They seem intent on tearing down the American ideal,
Mm-hmm.
and I've heard some people do that by bringing up the fact that we went in, that Roosevelt wanted us in World War II and maneuvered us into World War II by cornering the Japanese and forcing them to attack. I don't care. The political animal is completely different than the man in uniform. The man in uniform, as I said, serves his country, good or bad. The leader is good or bad. Sometimes you have great ones, sometimes you don't. Um, but it's the soldier's job to kill the enemy, period. Not to analyze um, if it's right or wrong. Did we come into this um, um, in the proper way? Were we set up? Um, the soldier's job. Well, to put it less bloodily, the soldier's job is to defeat the enemy. Let's put it that way. Is to make sure that your country overcomes and prevails.
Yeah. Well, I think we could spend a lot of time on this subject. I think we skipped something kind of important here. We just went right into the conversation. Let's back it up just a touch. And Rex, why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and all that good stuff, and then we'll keep this rolling.
Well, I'm a spiritual teacher in Southern Indiana, and I'm not a Christian, but um, unlike other non-Christian people of my ilk, I see Christianity as absolutely essential. This country, no matter who else says that it's not true, this country was founded on Christian principles. Those principles have made this country the greatest nation that's ever existed on Earth that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Atlantis was better, but we'll never know.
Right.
But as far as history is concerned, this is the greatest country that's ever existed, and that is because of Christian values. Um, I am not a Christian because I disavow Jesus or because I'm a Christian because I've prayed the prayer over and over again and have not been touched. I may yet be touched. You never know. That's up to the will of God. I mean, salvation is a gift. It's grace. So, having said that, I would also like to say that everything in the material world has a spiritual base, has a spiritual foundation, and what we're experiencing now has been growing for a long, long time. During the Bolshevik Revolution, um, the whole concept behind that is the destruction of the destruction of Christianity. Um, it can't succeed without the destruction of Christianity, and so I defend Christianity and Christian values as strongly as a Christian would.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more as far as what specifically cannot succeed with Christianity playing such a big part in our society?
Marxism. Um, Marxism cannot succeed, and that is exactly what's going on. Um, I think that there's a spiritual power that is has cloaked itself in Marxism. Christians might call it Lucifer. Um, I use that name as well, but to me it comes down to the self. And there's a quote that I like to use that when the throne is empty, chaos and anarchy rule the land. And if the self is on the throne, then the throne is empty.
Right. Yeah.
God has to be on the throne in everything that we do. If the self is there, then we're wrong-headed, no matter what we do. I mean, secular humanists who say that as long as you're a good person, you don't need God. So, but yet those people will get behind efforts to get the Ten Commandments out of the schools.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But they'll say, as long as you're a good person, I mean, you don't need a God to do that. Yes, you do. Whatever you picture whatever you conjure in your mind that God to be, you need something outside of self, something bigger than you that you can turn to, that you can look up to, that you can pattern yourself after.
Hey, Rex, if I could, I still want to back up a little bit as Bree was working on getting a little bit of your background. So, obviously, you wore the uniform of one branch or another during the Vietnam era, and
Army.
Army. Okay, I wondered what started you on this journey investigating spirituality and how it affects everyday living, and were you always inclined this way? Was there events in your life that led you on this path? Or I'd like a little bit of that for our listeners as well, if you don't mind.
Okay. I was born a Catholic, so in essence, I didn't have any spirituality at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
We
Catholic
get that.
listeners. um, I went to church because my mother was Catholic and I was made to go.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I was old enough to exert my own will, I didn't go. And until I was 16 years old, I had no spirituality at all. It was rock and roll and girls. I was, in eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade. Excuse me. When I was 16, on summer vacation, I secluded myself in a cabin in the woods. This sounds very Thoreau-like, but uh, I read the Bible from cover to cover. That's how I spent my summer. And I thought that it had made me a Christian. I was very, very. I could spout scripture. I wanted to be a priest after that. But as we said before, that salvation is a gift of grace. It's not something that you choose. It's not something that you go after. You can put yourself in the position to receive it, but um, you can't claim it as yours because it won't hold. It'll slip away, as did mine. Um, I went into different denominations of Christianity. Well, some I wouldn't even call Christianity, but I won't. I don't want to antagonize more people besides the Catholics, so I won't mention them. But different denominations, and never worked out. It always left me a little empty. And I went into the Eastern religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, and in 1960, no, 1972, I was initiated into this by an Indian guru by the name of Darshan Singh. Um, anyway, to make a long story short, I got disillusioned by that initiation and became an agnostic after that. And that eventually, I went on a slippery slope. I actually became a cocaine dealer. I had slid that far. And so money became my God. And In doing that, I got interested in magic, which is the control of situations and people, and that eventually got me into the Kabbalah, which is the basis of all of that stuff, and the Kabbalah by necessity, because it's Bible based, got me back into the Bible. So I went full circle, back to the Bible, but the Old Testament. Um, yeah, with little vacations, slidings, backslidings, whatever you want to call them. I've always been interested in what is driving this. What are we? What are we here for? All of that. That's why when this, I had odd feelings back in the '60s when the Weather Underground and other organizations were actively working against the war. They weren't actually working against the war. They were using the war as an excuse to tear down the country. And nobody could see that. Nobody sees that still. And when the war ended, they lost their platform, but they didn't lose their focus. And the tenets of Marxism on how to undermine a country from within. One of those is to take control of the media and take control of academia. And that's where those people went. They went into the media and they went into colleges and they started indoctrinating the youth. And here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Pops.
Yeah. So from that beginning of your journey, you now, I think you suggested you're a spiritual advisor or somebody who helps people connect with spirituality. Is that an okay assessment?
Yeah, I don't tell them the destination. I give them the tools by saying, mostly by asking questions. What is bigger than you? What is more important than you? Um, how does that fit into the paradigm of your world? Um, Measuring, teaching them to measure, teaching them to question, teaching them to probe. Why do I feel this way?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that why am I Presbyterian? You know, oh, well, because I was raised Presbyterian. My mother and father were Presbyterian. All right, what does that mean? What is a Presbyterian? Like Mormons, people don't know what it is, don't even know their own religion. Um, so basically, I teach them to think, and hopefully, their thinking helps them discover the spirituality inside them. I don't tell them what to think.
Sure.
That would be cultish.
So when we look at the environment we're in today, and let's take a couple that might be easy to start with, but maybe we can get off onto some other hot button type issues. So today, when we all have been exposed to the idea of children having their genitals mutilated to become the opposite sex, and we hear such nonsense as the men can have babies and all this sort of thing. Do you consider that to be evil at work in the world around us?
Absolutely,
Okay.
without question.
Right.
That is that's a symptom of this creeping sickness, spiritual sickness that is pervading, I would say, the Western world, not just America.
Sure, I would agree. And then, as you mentioned moments ago, uh, having the media and academia infiltrated by people that were committed to pushing forward the ideals of Marxism and tearing down the foundational principles upon which this country was built, these topics, such as just mentioned, have become normalized. And now you hear about them every day, and the kids are exposed to this nonsense at the schoolhouse, and the media and the Hollywood types are all promoting this. That works hand in hand with the suggestion of taking these entities over to further speed up the transfer of these evil thoughts throughout society.
I don't quite know what you mean. Do you mean that we should take back these institutions?
Well, I think that
would you say take over?
No, well, I think it's what I'm trying to do is call attention to some of the things that they may have participated in normalizing in society today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's really difficult to do, isn't it? When you're talking to a young person and you give them a fact, and they say, and they ignore the fact, by telling themselves, "Well, my favorite actor doesn't believe that, and
Right.
the government isn't saying that, and that's not what the news says." So this person is full of it. So, like being a soldier, Christians sometimes like to refer themselves as soldiers of Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to take on that Pete Hegseth mentality and keep doing what you know is right, even though it's being rejected, even though it seems like it's not being heard, because what you're doing is planting a seed, and some seed falls on rocky ground and some seed falls on fertile ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it will have a harvest. I don't know if it's enough to save what's going on. Maybe America will fall, but I doubt it, because I'm not a huge fan of Trump. I don't think that he's a perfect human being or the second coming of Christ.
Absolutely,
but he is exactly what this country needed at exactly the time it was needed.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say moments ago you mentioned Lucifer, and of course that is something that I think all Christians could refer to and recognize. And we as Christians call Lucifer the father of lies and the spreader of lies, and I think that is where a lot of connections are made within the Christian denominations, that so many of these things that are being propagated through academia and the media today are obviously lies. They're falsehoods. There's only two biological sexes. I'm sorry, we can't, have all these other ones, but they're lies, and they're being driven into people's heads. And I think it makes them confused, makes them more manageable because they're confused, more apt to follow what appears to be the dominant leadership when they have these things ingrained into them. And I don't want to jump too far ahead nor leave Bree out, but how do you, as a professional in this field, how do you work against those, let's just call them evils that we see around us?
By planting those seeds,
mm-hmm.
by going on podcasts like this one. This is probably the most important podcast that I've done, because it does something that I try to do, and that is to show the spiritual root of everything that we do in this world. And your podcast does that. It incorporates the spirit with what's happening on the political stage right now. And so it's going on podcasts like this. It wherever I can. I've gone. I was on a podcast of a young man who is into all of the stuff that I went through in my youth, all of this occult stuff, and sorted it out and saw what was nonsense and what was what it was hiding, and what its purpose was, and he's right there in the middle of it. But I went on his podcast anyway because I wanted to drop little seeds, and hopefully they sprout. Am I going to change the world? I'm not that egotistical, but I'm going to do my part.
Yeah. Yeah, great answer. I think that's what it really comes down to, and that's what we try to share with our listeners every week is it's never going to be a groundbreaking thing, you as the individual, but if all of us do our part, it will make a difference. And what happens between now and when things get better, I don't know. I don't think that is for us to know. But I am curious, as to your thoughts on how deep some of this stuff goes, because I know I have a lot of beliefs as far as what is happening in the spiritual realm right now, but I think a lot of people have a hard time connecting the dots there as far as, like you mentioned, the political stage and the global political stage too. Connecting that to the spiritual world can feel a little disjointed, I think, for some people. For me, it always seems that anything that feels wrong, the more you probe, it comes back to that spiritual root that you were talking about. So if you can go into that at all, that would be amazing.
Well, let's use the example of empathy, the idea of empathy. Um, Empathy is at the very core of the left. They're consumed by this desire for empathy, to help, to the, if you watch a lot of uh, podcasters who interview people on the street. I forget his name, a young man, not Charlie Kirk, who I adored, but somebody in the lower echelons was interviewing an Antifa guy in Portland, Oregon, and no, I'm sorry, it was a woman, and she said that we need to have empathy for these people that are coming across the border, because all they're doing is seeking um, a better life. And his answer was, yeah, everybody is seeking a better life, but that doesn't mean that I can, because I don't have a nice house to live in, that I can go and kick down your door and take yours.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Empathy is a very slippery slope, and Mara, um, which is the Buddhist equivalent of Lucifer, and Lucifer, that energy, that force, um, will use whatever it can, and it uses empathy. It certainly does. And these people think that they're creating a better world. They really believe that. And we're the evil ones because we don't have empathy. We don't want to let them in. Um, we do want to let them in legally.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, this country is based on immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
A message that I like to give my students when they ask me about empathy, because there's a lot of confusion, and it's really being twisted by the media and by the left. I said, if a man asks you for a fish, give him a fish, but give him a rod and reel. And if he throws away that rod and reel and comes back for another fish, turn him away. That is real empathy, because you're not feeding into his delusion of the world owes me something.
I think that is the base of what a lot of this is the delusion that the world owes me something. And you can put that in any category across the board. And that is such a big component of what we're discussing. And it also ties directly into what you said early on, that it's the same problem as when you put self on the throne. That's the same thing. It's this incredible disease of self-entitlement. And it feels like it's getting a lot worse all the time from our perspective. I don't know if you feel differently.
I feel the tension building because it's getting worse, but the opposition to it is also building, and so that the tension is growing. Um, we might actually experience a civil war in this country.
Mhm.
That will be the end of this country as a world power, and we'll have to pick up the pieces and start again and take those principles, those conservative Christian, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. The best thing that Jesus ever said, in my opinion, was God is not mocked, meaning there's no there's no loophole in the law. You will reap what you sow.
Yeah.
I think what has happened largely through the creation of a dependency class, which could be homegrown or folks that have come into this country illegally. I think it's oftentimes human nature to let somebody else carry your load for you if they will. And I think certain powers that be within government have recognized that. Even the founders made statements such as the republic will last until people realize they can vote themselves gifts from the public treasury. Then they will always elect those who are promising the most gifts. And I think we're kind of in that cycle now where it appears to be very noble to suggest that we are imparting empathy on those who are less fortunate, but really you're building a demographic that can control the voting population or a significant piece. And those folks were going to come as long as there are benefits being handed out. If they were coming here and the only way there was for them to make a better life for themselves was to pick up a pick and shovel like the rest of us did, or whatever form of work you can bring to the benefit of society at large, and get busy, I think the numbers would drop off significantly. But as long as they can pour in here and just simply be handed gifts that the rest of us are paying for, I think that leads to the problem that we have and the size of which that we have today.
I think that it contributes to what's happening today, but I think that there's a lot more to it, and there usually is.
Uh-huh.
The even our homegrown situation, the oh God, I hope this isn't taken wrong. The black society within our country in the 40s and 50s, especially the 40s, they had, and these are statistics that I looked up, 80% of those homes had a father in those homes.
Sure.
Today, it's 20%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The black culture within that community has been denigrated so far that it believes that it's a victim in the least racist and most opportunity filled country that's ever existed on earth.
Correct.
They're victims.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're being held down. And the Democratic Party, and it's we've got good guys and bad guys on both sides of the aisle.
Of course.
But the Democratic Party, because of its makeup, because of its godlessness,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come right out and say it. Uses or allows itself to be used, and it will do anything to maintain power. and it destroyed black culture in the name of power. Lyndon Johnson said when he signed the 1,000 point of light legislation that brought about um, I'm 75. Sometimes I lose my train of thought. DEI. What is the official?
Affirmative action.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. He got it. He got it. The introduction of that
Mm-hmm.
and the welfare state
Mm-hmm.
destroyed black culture. And when he signed that legislation into law, he must have been aware of the nuances because of what he said. With this signature, I secure the N vote for 100 years. And this was a culture that rejected, up to that point, had rejected primarily the Democratic Party, which was the founder of the KKK,
Right.
and was against the freedom of slaves.
Yeah.
And my father used to say, "Do you think it's a coincidence that right after the end of the Civil War, revolving credit was invented?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We can't chain them to the land anymore, but we can chain up their finances.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
can chain
exactly.
up their opportunities.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's um, there's some nasty things going on in the world, but there's some good things too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe you can touch on that a little bit. I mean, I really feel that there is such an awakening across the board, not just spiritually. I think people are waking up to truth every day. I really, really feel that there is a positive undertone, but I also feel that people are in that awakening, discovering the connections to spirituality, be it Christian or otherwise, and having that spiritual awakening at the same time. Do you think that that's an accurate assessment?
Um, I think it's hopefully inflated. Um, yes, there is a spiritual awakening, but it's an awakening that is along the lines of um, once I rid myself of my ego, I will realize that I am God. I am God. Um, the spiritual awakening that's going on is um, not necessarily productive. The political awakening that's going on is hopefully inflated, and to explain that, I will say that it's inflated along the lines that um, okay, lost my train of thought again. Okay, let's come back to it.
We'll
Sure.
come back to it.
Sure.
Pops, you got another question?
Well, just to kind of leap ahead because these hours go by relatively quickly. So I think you have a lot of very sound words that can be shared for everybody, that we all need to be digging for that truth. We all need to recognize there's something bigger. How do you share this message? What kind of footprint you have? You said, I believe you were in southern Indiana. Oddly enough, I do a lot of business in Indiana, but Fort Wayne, Indianapolis area. But what is your outreach in that area, and how do you share your message? How do you get your word out?
Well, I've got a YouTube channel where I put on teaching videos primarily for my students. But along there's one on there pertaining to empathy, um, the nature of the self, um, how all of this is affecting us in today's society. My students are, for the most part, left leaning. they're interested in spirituality, and I think the powers that be that that we have become connected, so that I can keep them away from the I am God and I am part of God, and um, so that's how I do. That's how I do it. I do it through my books, through my music. I'm getting ready to release an album. 75 years old, and I'm releasing a prog rock album.
Nice. Well,
That's cool.
we'll want to get the name of that so we can get that posted in our notes here.
Okay, it's Gabriel Moss is the name of the band, and the album is called "Have a Good Trip."
Okay.
All right. Do you have a website or anything that your students find you on? Just anything that we can share in that sense for you?
They can look up the YouTube channel is Apotheosis, the Path of Water. That's Apothéosis. And that is just what it is, reaching the apex, reaching the top. That's what it means. So they can videos on there. They can also reach me if they want to on my email address. It's temple777@hotmail.com. I have 3 books on the market. The first one is The Secret Doctrine of Water, which explores the mystery of baptism and how it emerged out of the Jewish tradition of the mikvah, or the sacred bath, that the priest used to undergo before they would enter the Holy of Holies. The other one is Who Do Men Say That I Am, which is an exploration of the New Testament narrative. There's a children's picture book that is a little less heavy-handed. It's more of a traditional fairy tale, but it's I tried to put positive um, uh, messages in there for the kiddies that won't that might hopefully keep them away from uh, gay story hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
I'm coming out with a new book this month, a book of poetry that I call The Poetry of Transcendence, and I'm really liking that one. It's I take mystic poetry, Kabir, Proverbs. Proverbs is in there. Rumi, different mystic poets, and I've interspersed that, or used each poem to highlight part of a conversation that the Buddha had with a Hindu priest who came to see him, who was trying to discredit him, much like the Pharisees and the scribes who went to see Jesus with questions that were trying to tear him down, along those same lines. And so each section has a poem and is interspersed with commentary as well. And I really like that one. It's called The Poetry of Transcendence. It should be out this month.
Very
Cool.
nice.
That's awesome.
Other than that, those are the seeds that I'm planting.
So,
I love it. Yeah.
So if I could just follow up with that for a moment, Rex. So your students, is this all online training? How does one become enrolled? And then secondarily, a question I would have, if somebody finds themselves in the world today with a lot of the nuttiness that's going on, and they really feel undirected or unconnected or without a base, what kind of recommendations could you give to maybe any of our listeners who are in that space where they really just feel all discombobulated with things. And do you have any words to offer of where to go to find some stability, how to find your spiritual inner self, to maybe make peace with the world around us? Do you have anything we can offer?
Um, well, I would tell those people that my teaching is probably not the answer. Based on what you've said, I would advise that person to go to church.
How about then your students? Is this all online work? Are you in a formal classroom setting somewhere? How does all this work?
No, I don't. I don't take anyone who says, I want to study what you're teaching. I'll tell them to first get a thorough knowledge of the Bible. In other words, I send them away. They're not ready
Okay.
for what I have to teach, because I teach the non-existence of self and that God is everything. And if you're not ready to live your life that way, then you're not ready for what I have to say. And so go to church, get the basics, build your faith.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I
Okay.
was able to see your shirt earlier in the show tonight, and I found the across the top there to be where there is truth, there is no self. Okay, that's what I thought. All right, I wanted to get that out there as well.
And where there is self, underneath it says, where there is self, there is no truth.
Right, it works hand in hand. It's a seesaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know we're creeping up on an hour fast there, but Rex, what other messages would you like to share? I know we kind of bounced around a lot, but what do you feel is important for people to hear? You mentioned that you felt that this was an important podcast in that sense because it does connect the political world to the spiritual world, and we are trying to share that message that you have to be able to kind of see that this is the underlying issue, and it will sort of expand your perspective of what's happening politically. So I wonder if there are specific messages that you'd like to share with our audience while you're here, just as far as honestly anything. The ball's in your court. Anything you'd like to share.
Well, I would say that waking up in this day and age is not as easy as some people would make it out to be. There are so many forces that are working against that, that it's pretty difficult. So what I would advise is that a person approach anyone who's talking to him, who says that number one, there is no God. Number two, you are God. Or number three, we're in this mess because of people who believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody says that to you, you have no business listening to the rest of what they have to say.
Amen.
They have nothing productive to say. Without God, and my definition of God is that which is on the other side of the horizon. It's always out of reach, unknowable, without human form or attributes. No one, if you put a face on God, you've created an idol, and you're already in trouble. So if somebody says that any of those three things, walk away, because they don't know what they're talking about, and they're building their house on sand, and it's not going to stand. It's just not going to stand. We need God, whatever that is, and without it, we're doomed.
And thank you for that, Rex. And your books, where can any interested listeners find your books? Is this all on?
Oh, yeah, Amazon,
Okay.
Walmart.
Oh, good.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we'll be sure to share all of that stuff in the show notes. We like to make sure that we have a resource for our listeners to find you. But yeah, I mean, great conversation. I know we probably could have went down several different rabbit holes, and it's tough. You're kind of bouncing all over the place, but we appreciate your time for sure. Pops, is there any other questions that you wanted to get in, or anything else, Rex, that you wanted to share?
No, I'm just really grateful for what the two of you are doing. I think it's wonderful. If, with your permission, you can give me a copy of this, I'd like to post it on my site as well, because I think these ideas are very important for people who are struggling, people who are searching to hear,
Yeah.
both politically and spiritually.
We would
I agree with you.
Yeah, we would certainly agree with that, and look forward to your next book coming out. We will post up all the information that you've shared. Perhaps we can have you on again sometime after your book's out for a while, and take this conversation further. I
would love to. I really enjoyed talking to both of you.
Well, it was our pleasure to have you, Rex. Very nice to meet you. I'm sure Bree was about to mention that we always do close with a Bible verse. And as we were discussing tonight, one particular one came to mind. So I was quickly digging it up, and I'd like to use that as our Bible verse tonight. It comes from 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. For we hear that there are some among you who walk disorderly, working not at all, but are busy bodies. And I think that may be a reflection of some of our conversation tonight. And at least in our perspective, there is some biblical undertones to that conversation. We're all supposed to be doing our part and not burdening the rest of us or the rest of society to carry our load for us. So
absolutely.
Again, Rex, great meeting you. Enjoyed the conversation tonight.
Would you, just before we go, can I offer up a prayer that I say every morning?
Absolutely.
Father of all things, holy and unknowable is thy true name. Thy will is absolute. It cannot be denied. Therefore, I ask for nothing, but instead, I give thanks for the opportunity to experience the glorious unfolding of your will for one more day. Amen.
Amen. Very nice.
Thank you for that.
Yep. Thank you.
Have a great day, people.
You as well, Rex.
Same to you. Great meeting you. Alrighty, everybody. So that was Rex Bundy. Like we said, we will be sure to share everything he shared with us in the show notes. We really didn't even hardly scratch the surface of this conversation. Obviously, the spiritual realm is something that we speak about in some capacity every week. Obviously, everyone knows that we are very based in our Christian values. We literally close every week with a Bible verse, but the deep meaning of the spiritual world, and I mean, he used the term occult earlier in the episode. I think these are conversations we haven't got into a lot here, but it's important to understand. And as you start to wake up to the truth, you start to realize that this really is the bottom. When you dig all the way to the bottom of every rabbit hole of any conspiracy, this is what sits at the bottom. It's good versus evil. It always has been. It always will be. If you are actually seeking truth, whatever your belief is now, you will come to God, because you will find that evil exists and there is no other force to combat evil than God. So that's why we wanted to bring Rex Bundy onto the show tonight. Like I said, we barely scratched the surface. Hopefully we can have more conversations like this in the future. Pops, anything you would like to close with for the evening?
No, I know back a few sessions ago, we did talk about making sure that we did call to mind that we are in a spiritual conflict. And we are all seeking truth, because the truth will set you free. And anybody that is spreading such nonsense in your world, such as some of the topics we talked about tonight, men having babies, and it's okay for children to be mutilated sexually and transition to the opposite sex, and there's more than two. Any of those things, if they can tell you such mistruths on those very obvious subjects, what are they also misguiding you on? So be very, very careful. Discern what you're listening to. Seek out that truth, and remember, we are all encouraged to humble ourselves and pray, and the Heavenly Father will hear from heaven and heal our land. And we here at the Fourth Box are certainly encouraging that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, guys. So you know the drill. We are here every Thursday at 6 p.m. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow, share. We will be back next week with another guest for you. Until then, stay vigilant.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate the support and truly love getting to share this message with anyone who wants or needs it. The best way for you to support the show is to subscribe, add a rating, and share with everyone you know. You can find us on Instagram, X, and at thefourthbox.com. We'll see you next Thursday at 6 p.m. Stay vigilant.